Hello everyone and welcome to Lightcast webinars. We're really excited to be joined by a great lineup of speakers today for our Welsh focused webinar. If you have any questions during the course of the webinar, please put them in the questions box on your control panel for the GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll endeavour to get back to those at the end of the presentation. We will be sharing a recording and slides from today's webinar in a follow-up email, so please keep your eyes open for that. So without any further ado, I would like to hand over to Alex Kennedy, who is Lightcast's account director, and he will introduce you to our guests today. So over to you, Alex.
Thanks, Debbie. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and welcome, as Debbie said, to this webinar focusing on the Welsh labour market. Apologies that you might not be able to see any of us. We're having issues with cameras and sound at the same time, so we're all off camera, so you don't get to see my beautiful face. So today, then, what we're going to be looking at is I'm going to hand over to my colleague Lester Biddle shortly, who will give us an overview of what's going on and what's happened in the Welsh labour market recently. And I'm also very grateful for having Sue Davies here with us today from Careers Wales and James Scorey from Cardiff and Vale College as well. And they're joining us again to talk about their LMI labour market journey and exciting projects that they've been working on and using our data on as part of that. As Debbie said, if you do have any questions throughout, please do pop them in the control panel into the chat, and we will endeavour to get to those towards the end of this presentation. And there'll be opportunities throughout to ask questions, especially to James as well. He'll be opening up within his section just basically for any questions at all. If we go to the next slide, please, Lester. So just before we get stuck in, again, thank you for joining us. For some of you might be new to Lightcast. Obviously, we'd like to welcome you and just tell you a little bit about us as an organisation and our mission, because I think it is important, I think, to understand that where we're coming from as we bring great content to you and to help you understand why we do what we do. And really the big thing is that we as an organisation right around the world we are motivated to help unlock new opportunities in the labour market. If we go to the next slide, please, Lester. We can't do that alone just by ourselves, but as an individual organisation, we kind of do this through working with organisations just like your own, because you're part of our customer group and our customer journey, who are working obviously at the front line of driving forward the response to these changes and challenges in the labour market and unlocking those opportunities, those new possibilities, whether that through the world of education and skills development or through things like regional economic planning. So again, thank you for your work, and you enable us to fulfill our mission through your great work as well. And as most of you know, with our labour market data, our organisation is there to support you through your labour market journeys as well. So again, thank you for joining us. You will, I say, see me again. You'll hear me again at some point. And as I said, if you do have any questions, please do pop them in the control panel. And I'd like to now hand over to my colleague Lester, who will give an overview of the Welsh labour market in 2022 and beyond. So over to you, Lester.
Lovely, thank you, Alex, and good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining this webinar this afternoon. So I'm going to take you through a few slides that we put together just to combine some of the key data around Wales, particularly in the labour market, and some key sort of like findings, and some introducing you to possibly some new taxonomies that we brought in as I go through. So to start off with, I just wanted to give you a high-level overview of where Wales sits in comparison to the UK over the last sort of like year and a bit, what's been happening. So you can see that there's been 1.32 million jobs advertised, which is 4.2% of all jobs advertised in the UK. And typically this is characterised by health and social care and retail and wholesale activities specifically. Obviously, there's a variety of ranges of different occupations that we observe, and you'll see that in some of the future data that I'm going to bring up, which will give more granular level of information. But typically those are the main sort of key areas where occupations are being advertised in the Welsh labour market. In the unique postings, we have seen an increase from 2021 of 30%. So there is an increase, although that isn't as highly represented across as it would be across the whole of the UK. So labour market is growing everywhere, and we're observing that, and Wales is not unique in that respect. But the growth in the labour market in Wales is slightly behind the averages for the rest of the UK. And additionally, if we look at the salaries there, the median salary of 26,900, that has risen slightly in the last year by 1,200, but it's lagging behind the UK by about 13% as a whole. So again, there's some comparative data there. And finally, if we look at median duration, so this is how long jobs are typically advertised for that we're observing in the job posting data that we observe. The median duration is 31 days, which is pretty much where the UK is as well. But the point to really pull out at the bottom on that slide there is that 18% of all postings remain online for over 40 days. So it is suggesting there that employers are finding recruitment harder. And if we go back to the first tab where we're looking at the main sectors being health and social care and retail and wholesale activities, those typically the occupations that may be having a slightly lower wage and slightly harder to fill. So that's the strategic overview. We're now going to delve into some of this data in a bit more detail to put some meaning behind it. So if we look at where these jobs are advertised, what sort of counties and unitary authorities in Wales have been posting jobs in the last year, the biggest by far, 29%, is in Cardiff and Vale of Glamorgan. Representing just over a quarter there. So a key strategic area for jobs in Wales. And the others, there's a mixture there. There's the good sort of like fair even split in the next sort of like 7 or 8 until we get to the smaller one of PALS, which has got 3%. But we can see on average the number of postings is fairly evenly split, apart from Cardiff and Glale. But if we then break that down into cities and where these jobs are being posted in cities, Cardiff and Vale of Glamorgan still are representing the highest percentage there. But then Swansea is although that's a big drop, Swansea is there at 8%. So we can see again that significance of Cardiff and the Vale of Glamorgan coming out there in the key data that we're looking at. And the median durations, they're all pretty much the same. As I said, there's not a huge difference there in terms of the number of durations that they're being posted for. When we look at occupations, so we look at job data in 2 different ways. And I think it's useful to know from when you're thinking about giving people careers advice and guidance, because we've got Careers Wales on today, and we're thinking about where people might want to be working and what sort of occupations they might want to go into. So if we measure the data by the SOC code, the 4-digit SOC code, there's 360 of those at 4 digits, giving us the most granular level of detail that we can get for SOC code. This is what we see for Wales. So care workers and home care workers coming out significantly at the top, 5.5% of all jobs posted, which again ties up with what we saw in the first slide around health and social care activities being quite significant in job posting opportunities in Wales. And then we go down and we're seeing nurses. Interesting point about nurses when you look at the posting intensity. So the posting intensity is telling us how frequently the job is having to be posted on average, and the average usually is about 3 to 1 for Wales, but in the nurses sector it's 7 to 1. So we're seeing already a struggle to recruit nurses, and that theme is coming through from the SOC code here. And then we go down to the other jobs, the other top 10 jobs, so again we're seeing the sales and retail, customer service there, and then more lower down the cleaners, the domestic staff. So that's one way of looking at the labour market, and as I say, the SOC levels are quite defined, but there's only 360 of them at 4-digit. So what we have done in Lightcast quite recently is we've introduced our own taxonomy called the Lightcast Occupation Taxonomy. And this slide is, I'll talk you through this slide just to explain how this works and how this is relevant, especially when we're thinking about understanding the labour market and really getting into granular level of detail around the jobs that are going to be out there, the occupations and the work opportunities for the future. So as I said, with the stock code at 4-digit, you've got 360. We in the skills taxonomy within Lightcast now, we've released the specialist occupation, which gives us access to 1,900 specialist occupations. So you can probably understand now the connection between the high level career area, the 27 areas where people might want to go into work in the first place. We can then drill down into subsectors of that career area until we get to the specialist occupation. And by being able to get to the specialist occupation enables us to really then understand what specific skills would be needed in the future to develop those occupations moving forwards. What are the defining skills that people would need in order to have in those roles, and what sort of feeder jobs might go into them to help people understand a career path and a career route coming forwards. And I just wanted to talk you through that slide, because what I'm going to do on the next couple of slides is show you the same data for Wales, but looking at this lot taxonomy at specialist level to help you understand how the granular level of information is really feeding through to unpick some of the real detail in maybe some of the recruitment strategies that people are facing. So here what we're seeing now is we're seeing the top 10 occupations posted in Wales in the last year, but this time by specialist occupation. So we know that we saw the nursing and care filtering coming through highly in the last slide, but now we're getting to understand more detail around the specifics. So the registered general nurses here are the key area, they're the key gap where there's been the most jobs posted. But then we're starting to unpick the sectors a little bit more, because we've got the home health aide, and we can see the caregiver, the personal care aide. So we're starting to then really be able to define the different pathways within that sort of subsector. So when we're having conversations, or when you're having conversations with people around careers, advice and guidance, it's going to help you to really understand that sector as a whole and understand the defining different occupations and routes to work that you could maybe achieve within that given sector. And if we then take this further and look at a breakdown of job titles, because employers will advertise by job title and job titles are not normalized. So we need to understand the job title. So what I've done here is I've drilled down into, we know that registered nurses are a key focus for Wales. They're a key area where there's a lot of people, a lot of employers looking to fill those vacancies. And what we've now been able to understand is the different nurse titles. So job titles, the top 15 job titles with nurse in the title. So staff nurses now is coming out at the top, but equally we can now understand dental nurses is featuring in their nursery nurses, mental health nurses. So it's enabling us to really unpick the shortage of nurses and where they might be and what sort of job titles are being advertised. And then if we then take that one step further, we're then able to look and see, okay, so once we know that nursing is the skill area, nursing is an area where there's a need for a lot of people to work in the field of nurses. What are the top 15 skills required for those nurses being employed in Wales? To understand and connect, we can see that nursing is up there, Welsh language, registered nurse, communications, midwifery. So this is skills or qualifications that are needed in order for the people to be able to fill those vacancies. So the Welsh labour market is asking for these skills and qualifications for the gaps that they've got in the nursing labour market in order to enable people to fulfil the vacancies that they've got. And we're able to do this with all the different specialist occupations, obviously 1,900 of them. There's far too many to go through on this webinar today, but the point we're saying here is that with the labour market, access to the labour market data that we've got here, we can really start to understand and unpick the routes that are required for a successful career, the skills that are required, and what the labour market is actually requesting and needing in Wales generally. If we also look at apprenticeship recruitment, so let's take apprenticeships overall for Wales, 0.6% of vacancies advertised were apprenticeships. Now, bearing in mind that apprenticeships sometimes obviously don't get advertised, people will take on an apprenticeship when they're already in a role. So this is looking at those apprenticeships that have been advertised through the variety of different sources. But the UK average there is 1.2%. So half of what is being represented for the UK is represented in Wales, with a median salary of 18,000 compared to that median salary that we saw on the first slide of 26,900. We know that apprentices typically are going to be paid lower, and that gives us the data there. But where are those apprenticeships? So again, if you look at the top 3 sectors that are taking on apprenticeships in Wales, repair service technicians, administrative assistant and chefs. So they're the 3 key real areas, and when we looked at the data, they're significantly higher than anywhere else, any other apprenticeship vacancies in the sector of Wales. When we start to look at the occupations and the industries that are growing in Wales, we can understand a bit more around the growth over the last few years in its entirety for the occupations. So the retail, human resources and industrial relations officers, a growth there of 1,475. The shopkeepers and proprietors, wholesale retail growth of 1,104, and arts officers and projectors. So understanding the growth in the occupations enables us to then really define where there might be more future opportunities for people to work in Wales. Definitely and significantly, the growth in motion pictures and video technology programs and insurance brokers stood out as significantly a lot higher as well for industries growing. What we have done as well, we have clustered together industries to help understand a bit more around what is driving forward the growth. Where are the strengths for Wales? What's actually being seen as growth opportunities overall for the clustered groups? Now, when I say clustered groups, so there's 500 plus different standard industry classification codes, and we've clustered them into 49 comparable and similar clusters. So for example, we've got a cluster group around the visitor economy, passenger transport, as you can see, creative, hazardous and waste and forestry. So by clustering these groups together, it helps really understand a bit more around where the sort of like growth skill sectors might need to be, where the opportunities are for growth and what is growing. And as you can see on this slide here, the creative sector for Wales has significantly grown in the last 3 years, much more than anybody else. What you're looking at on the slide here is the top 4 areas of growth for Wales in the last 3 years. But you know, 217% growth in the creative sector as opposed to 108 in the forestry sector. So creative, we know, is growing in the UK as well, but it's significantly growing more in Wales. And as we saw in the previous slide, we saw that connection to the motion pictures and the filming, the TV studios, that type of thing. So there's definitely some correlation there between maybe organisations refocusing or moving to Wales. So that really is a summary of the labour market that we have in total in Wales. We're looking at the top industries here in terms of the specialist skills. So when we take the top industries that we've got recruiting in Wales, these are the specialist skills. Now, why this is relevant is because we really want to understand if those industries that are representing the top for Wales in terms of their growth opportunities, but also their employment opportunities, what are the top skills that are required by those? So, you know, we can see some correlation there between the sectors that we've already seen. Okay, so I'm now going to hand over to Sue Davies from Careers Wales, who's going to talk us a little bit about what Careers Wales have been up to recently with our data and some exciting new projects that they're working on. So, Sue, good afternoon, and I'll pass over to you.
Hi, Lester, and hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep, cool. Okay, thanks, Lester, and thanks for that really useful insight into what's happening in the Welsh labour market. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sue Davies, Prananda, an information coordinator within the Careers Wales information team, which is tasked with developing and maintaining content on our website and other online resources. I'm really pleased to have the opportunity today to give you a very brief insight into how we in Careers Wales uses LMI data, and particularly to show you our latest online LMI product, Future Jobs Wales, which we launched earlier this year in February. I think you can see, you know, the actual breadth and detail of data that we've got access to through Lightcast. So the real challenge for us is how to make quite complex LMI data engaging and accessible for all our users to help them with their own career pathways. So, and just to set this in the context of the wider context of Careers Wales' service, if you could just pop onto the next slide, please, Lester. In support of its vision for a brighter future for the people of Wales, Careers Wales provides a bilingual, inclusive, impartial careers advice and guidance service. And at the very heart of that service is the provision of accessible, engaging and up-to-date careers in LMI to help our customers make informed career decisions. To help us do that, we've been using Lightcast Analysts for some years now. If you could pop onto the next slide, thanks, Lester. As a research tool to support the development of a range of LMI products aimed at our customers, staff and partners. Some of our key LMI products that use the data are our website, obviously, particularly in our 800 job information leaflets in which future growth data is presented at occupational level. LMI data snippets are also added as relevant to give some context to our web pages in general. The LMI team produces a data-rich LMI bulletin and LMI features 3 times a year. And LMI data also supports the development of other videos and other resources. Currently, we're about to publish a series of 3 short LMI videos on trends in the Welsh job market. The LMI team also supports our marketing team with intelligence for the PR and marketing and social media campaigns. And routinely, the team also responds to LMI research requests from staff and partners. So we've been using Analyst as a research tool for some years, as I say. More recently, we've extended our Lightcast license to cover access to the data via their API feeds in order to make maintenance of our biggest LMI products, such as job information and now Future Jobs Wales, more sustainable. And so that brings me to Future Jobs Wales, our new LMI product. If you could just move to the next slide, please, Lester. It's aimed at all of our users, whether that's young people making choices about their next learning step, adult job seekers or career changers. The product is designed to be used directly online or mediated as part of, say, group works with young people in schools or colleges. Its overarching purpose is to present up-to-date LMI and intelligence on the key industries of Wales and our 4 regions. Our old version of this product, Spotlight, was very well received, but feedback highlighted the need for more local intelligence, as always. Future Jobs Wales presents LMI data for Wales, the UK, and importantly now we can present it at local authority level. The product is interactive. The user can filter and compare data for different geographies. And I hope you agree that our creative and development teams have done an amazing job in the design of the infographics and animations to bring the data alive. So the API feed will allow us to automatically refresh the data so that we can present the latest, most up-to-date LMI each year. And the whole development in itself was customer-led. Its design is based on the results of robust user research completed last year, as well as the feedback and evaluation we have built up from the old product over the years. So I think we can pop over to the live site now, if that's okay. And I'm hoping, can we see the live site? Have I connected through to the live site now?
Yeah, looks good.
Good, great, good to go. We published the first of the Future Jobs Wales products in February. The first two industries available are construction and energy, with others to follow through the year. So I thought today I'd give you a quick look at the jobs in construction product and take you through how we've built that up and just try and show you very briefly how the Lightcast data is fed through into some of those sections. So the page is made up of 10 sections. There are a mix of data-driven components supported with text sections to add the qualitative labour market intelligence that helps to put the data into context. At the top of the page, data highlights give the user an immediate snapshot of the relative size of the industry in Wales and its expected growth over the next 5 years. We can see that the construction industry represents 10% of the Welsh workforce and is expected to grow by 6% in the next 5 years. About the industry and new in the industry are text components that allow us to add the softer intelligence that is researched by our LMI team to introduce the industry, basically. These sections help to give context to the data that is presented throughout the page. About the industry gives an overview of what the industry does and the key areas of work and opportunities that people can become involved in, while new in the industry highlights the key trends affecting the industry and the skills in demand as a result. So for construction in Wales, the key drivers at the moment are technological and digital advances that are changing the way buildings are constructed, like offsite building, and its significant role in helping Wales achieve net zero targets, which will mean demand for retrofit and renewable energy skills going forward. The size of the industry is the first of the data-driven components on the page. It presents the user with data on how many people are employed and how big the industry is relative to the working population in Wales. Construction obviously is an important industry, representing 10%, which is a larger proportion of the working population than for the UK as a whole. And this is where the user can start to interact with the LMI data and compare data presented for Wales with UK, but more locally at their local authority level. They can select from the drop-down filter here. Sorry, I'm already presenting on Carmarthen, I can see. So if I take you back to Wales, you can see 128,441 people employed, 10% of the Welsh workforce. And then selecting from the drop-down, say for Carmarthenshire, which is my home county, we can see 6,701 people working in the construction industry, which represents 9% of the working population. So slightly less than that for Wales. In jobs and pay, the user can explore some of the job roles and their approximate pay ranges. Now, the data in this component is sourced by us from the Careers Wales LMI team's research. It's data for Wales, and it is also fed in via an API feed from our own database, job information database. The list of construction jobs is a sample taken from our job information product. The job titles take the user back to the full job information leaflet for that particular role, and a link at the bottom of the section, and the user can jump through to job information to see the full list of 86 construction job titles we have listed in job info. Future of the industry presents a picture of employment trends past and future. So the user can see how many people are expected to be employed in the coming next 5 years, whether the industry basically is expected to grow, shrink, or remain stable. So we see that construction is expected to grow by 6% up to 2027 in Wales. which is a faster rate of growth than is expected for the UK as a whole, which is 2%. And as with all the components, the user can then interrogate that by their local authority to compare what the projected growth is likely to be nearer to where they live. Jobs in highest demand is driven by online postings data. So the data I've just been looking at in the other components was driven by the Lightcast industry and occupational employment data. So this section is reflecting some of the data that Lester has just shown you, and the user can explore which construction occupations have had the highest number of online job vacancies posted over the last 12 months. We update this on a rolling basis, so at the time of publishing from the last 12 months, the previous 12 months. So at the moment, as you can see, the top 5 jobs online in construction in Wales are labourers, civil engineers, electricians and electrical fitters, health and safety officers and quantity surveyors. And again, the user can drill down to have a look at what the picture is in their own county and see what the top 5 jobs posted near to where they live are. In top jobs now and in the future, the user can see how many people are employed in different occupational groups and the growth expected for each over the next 5 years. And again, the data obviously can be selected for each local authority to compare with Wales and the UK picture. In this table of data, by clicking on the column heading, you can actually sort the different columns. So if we then either by total numbers employed to give you the biggest group of occupations within the industry, or by percentage change growth in terms of the numbers employed. In this section, we wanted to highlight the highest growth occupations, but balance it by making sure that the data was qualified by knowing how many people are actually employed in the occupational group. So basically to put a percentage growth figure in the context of how many projected actual job openings that mean. So the example here is 6% growth of labourers means more actual job openings than 12% growth of scaffolders, given the total numbers employed in these job roles. So I mentioned that we did user research to actually inform the development of this. This section of the page, I'm particularly interested when we do our evaluation, we go back out to users to ask them how they, give us feedback on how they've been able to navigate and understand what they're seeing on the page. This is the section where that balance between numbers employed and percentage changing growth, I want to sort of get a handle to see whether that makes sense, and is, to the range of our users. So that's the bit I will really be focusing on to explore. And then finally at the end of the page, then we give our users some signposting to further useful links and specifically where they can go to search for construction-based job vacancies. There's also a link there at the bottom of the page to more information on how we source the data within the product. And just to say a little bit about that, just to reiterate, as I mentioned, we're using industry and employment data for the majority of the data in components. Job posting data feeds into the jobs in demand section for the online job vacancy intelligence, and the salary data is sourced from ourselves in our job information database. So that is a really very quick whistle-stop tour of what is our first beta version of release of Future Jobs Wales. It's very much a first version. It's early days, but I think it's fair to say we're quite pleased with the initial positive responses we've had from users and partners. Next step will be the release of jobs in health, as we've determined the industries that we'll be focused on in terms of their significance in terms of the size of employment in Wales, and also those with growth and highest demand, as Lester's been illustrating with the data particularly health. But we've also started development work on 4 regional-based products, and we're talking to the 4 regional skills partnerships in Wales to do that. So we're quite excited to be looking forward to releasing those later this year. And as I said, we will be carrying out a full evaluation. While Lester was speaking and he was introducing you to the new way of organising the LMI data by skills-based taxonomies, it's already in my mind to looking ahead to think about whether we can, because we're actually representing data based on SOC groupings at the moment, and so it's already, you know, in our roadmap to think about, will it be better to illustrate what's happening in industries and where the trends and growth and opportunities are through a skills approach. But this product is a template based, it's API based as well. So the longer term plan is that it can facilitate tweaks in data, as long as my friends in development are happy to do some intricate coding for me. So that's all quite exciting. But yeah, it's we'd love to hear comments because it is an iterative process. So users and our partners can feedback via the beta link or just email the information team here at Careers Wales. So thank you. So I hand back to you, Lester.
Thank you very much, Sue. That was really a really interesting tour, and a really, you know, I think the tool looks fabulous. I think it's going to be invaluable. I certainly wish it was there when I was at school. It looks like it's going to be, and the way that you're thinking forward with all the future growth demands, and certainly, you know, the possibility of using the Lightcast taxonomies or the skills taxonomies, as you mentioned. Yeah, I think it's really exciting, and I know I've been part of the journey with you and had several meetings with your API team as we've developed the product, but it's really nice to see the finished product. So thank you very much. Alex, I think you're going to just introduce us to James now.
Yeah, so just going to thank you again to Sue there. We've just had some nice comments come through in the questions there in the control panel, which is great to see. So I'm going to hand over to James from Cardiff and Vale College, who will kind of give us a bit of a background on the college itself, kind of on our partnership, I nearly said relationship then, our relationship with Cardiff and Vale College. And this part of the webinar is very much, it's going to be not any presentation. James and I will just be facilitating any questions that come through in the control panel. So please do ask away. There've been questions for myself, for James, or for Lester and Sue as well. So please do ask any questions for us. I do have some questions as well if people are feeling shy today. So I'll hand over to James, who'll give introduce himself and just a bit of background on the college itself. So thanks, James.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Alex, and good afternoon all. Prynawn da. Great to be invited to give an overview on this webinar talking about the Welsh economy and how we're using LMI within the context of the FE sector. I think it's also great to see the sort of development and innovation that's happened within the analyst product, and partners like Careers Wales, who've done an excellent demonstration there of how LMI can be made accessible to inform young people's choices and ultimately support their careers. So yeah, really exciting by what's been shown so far. So I'm James Scorey, so Vice Principal Funding and Planning at Cardiff and Vale College. CAVC, as perhaps many of you know, is one of the largest FE institutions in the UK in terms of the Cardiff and Vale College group, and we'll service around 30,000 learners each year across various different education sort of initiatives that we'll be supporting, and that varies from your sort of traditional sort of further education offer, supporting full-time learners and obviously part-time learners across the age range there from young people up to more mature adults, and the provision that we offer in ACL. Higher education obviously is a key part of our offer, along with apprenticeships, traineeships, and how we then work with employers too to deliver opportunities to upskill and reskill their workforce in line with their challenges. So in terms of what does LMI mean, I suppose, for Cardiff and Vale College, we've been fortunate enough to work with the analyst product since 2015, and part of that really was what we pride ourselves on is like much of the FE sector really is trying to really sort of create skilled and employable people which are aligned to the needs of the Welsh economy, and what our passion is about is ultimately changing lives through learning, and the key part of that, we've been on a very much a journey in terms of ensuring that we are a demand-led institution, and the use of LMI is ultimately fundamental in ensuring that we are demonstrating our sort of opportunity to maximise that social and economic impact that we have as an institution. LMI obviously comes in multiple sources, and the analyst product and data is ultimately one part of the equation, I suppose, for us in terms of how we use LMI. We draw on obviously qualitative as well as the quantitative data in terms of ensuring our provision is informed and developed to meet the emerging needs of the Welsh economy. And the mainstay in that is we produce a rather comprehensive internal document which informs our curriculum planning cycle, and what we try to do there is a little bit similar, I suppose, to what Sue described, is that we're trying to present the LMI in a format in which our sort of curriculum leaders and heads of department and deputy heads of department are able to easily access the LMI for their area, and then use that to inform their provision. And the way we present that is through our sort of SSA, sector subject area sort of analysis, and what we talk about in there is, you know, our sort of supply versus demand. So we track through how our completions are in essence meeting the job vacancies and job openings at an occupational level. We do the analysis on the 4-digit SOC in terms of just increasing that awareness of what educational level is required for different types of occupation, and also then weave in the sort of automation index as well in terms of understanding the at risk of certain tasks within those occupations becoming automated, and we look further then down at niche occupations so that we can understand those opportunities for growth and do a sort of hard and soft skills analysis at each SSA, and that sort of approach is really about providing our curriculum leaders with the opportunity to use that data to inform their provision, and ultimately, you know, we always come back to, I suppose, is the conundrum of curriculum planning, whereby there's almost three dimensions that we've always got to be mindful of. There's the learner demand and how we change and influence that learner demand, and the influence of the parents and guardians over those learners is ultimately a fundamental challenge, and obviously the great work that Sue has highlighted there will only support that as we move forward in terms of increasing accessibility to help inform that demand. We then look at our college level sort of capacity and capability to supply, and that's something that we take obviously a long-term approach over in terms of, you know, developing our internal staff expertise in terms of moving into new and emerging areas, as well as obviously creating our own sort of vacancies, if you like, in terms of attracting new talent to the organisation to support some of these areas, and then the third dimension being that sort of, you know, that sort of demand lens, if you like, which is often viewed through the perspective of the employer, through the demands of government in terms of priorities of investing in skills in particular areas. And obviously we've seen huge attention recently in terms of the area around net zero, green, and digital, which is starting to come through. And obviously we've got the regional skills partnership as well, which we work closely with to work that through. So we've certainly been on a journey when it comes to how we use LMI within the college. Like I say, it goes back to 2015, I think, when we first started using the analyst product, and we've worked with Lightcast in terms of, you know, providing that, obviously, that not only that product to us, but also doing additional work in terms of understanding our impact. So we've done an economic and social impact study through working with partners at Lightcast, and also previously did a supply and demand analysis way back in 2015, which sort of provided the catalyst really for how we sort of need to sort of continue to use and respond to the sort of emerging LMI picture as we move forward. So appreciate I've spoke for a little while there, but very happy to take any additional questions with regards to how we're using LMI within CAVC.
That's great. Thanks, James. That was really really in depth and answered a couple of my questions that I had lined up for you. Again, if any of the attendees do have any questions, please put them into the control panel. James, just one from me around, obviously I know the background of CAVC with working with employers. Are you able to go into more detail around how, I suppose, you might use LMI to link with employers? Obviously you're a massive college that works very closely with employers, and that employer group's really important to you guys.
Yep, certainly. So yeah, we take an approach really by way, obviously we're engaging at a sort of, I suppose, a strategic and almost transactional level sometimes with employers to support both immediate and long-term skills challenges. But at a strategic level, obviously we partner with organisations large and small from across all sectors on a one-to-one sort of level. But the other key forum for us is that we run a number of employer advisory boards, which are made up of key decision makers from organisations in each of the key priority sectors in Wales, and we use those forums, if you like, as a sounding board really to test our assumptions, to test what the real feedback is on the ground, and to position what we understand of LMI from the perspective of some of the statistical data, and to really get a sense check over what that means to them. Is it right? Has it got any gaps? And that sort of two-way sort of dialogue with employers is a really important part, I suppose, of that understanding of what the regional picture is looking like, and we've used it, to validate our offer, to co-design and co-develop new initiatives and projects with employers. We've recently, over the last sort of 12 to 15 months, launched a number of skills academies, which is a build upon the sort of skills boot camps model in England and the Assured Skills Academy model in Northern Ireland. And we've done that in areas where there are specific challenges in terms of technical skills, and co-designed an offer to really try to sort of broaden the sort of talent pool that's available to employers in areas from coding. We've done some around the creative script editing, hospitality, and really looking to sort of work with employers to develop not just the sort of longer term solutions, but short intensive solutions as well to meet their needs.
No, that's great. Thank you very much, James. I'm just conscious of time, so we'll if anyone does have any questions, please do chuck them in the chat itself. There is one that's come through for Sue, I believe. Sue, if you're still there, it's around are there any plans for like a careers in finance section on the on the project that you're working on. So someone's just asked that if there is any plans for that. Is Sue still there? Sue, can you hear me? I don't know if it might not be going through.
It's Fionn here. I'm not sure what's happened to Sue's sound. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, then I'll just take that question on behalf of Sue. Fionn Jones, I'm the Labour Market Information Team Manager. So yes, in short, is the answer to that question. We are looking at regional priorities across Wales and looking at those priority sectors for the regional skills partnerships. And the financial services and professional services are one of those professional clusters that the RSPs have indicated. So we are taking those as our lead information to develop the different clusters of Future Jobs Wales.
That's great. Thanks for answering that, Fionn. So we haven't had any other questions come through. So just chances to quickly wrap up. Again, thank you all for attending. We do have another webinar shortly next week, looking at local authorities. As we can see, they're using digital badges to build skills insights. That's with Navigator and ourselves. So please do book onto those if you would like to. As Debbie said at the beginning, you will receive a recording of this afterwards if you want to watch it back again. And again, just another thank you for joining us today. Thank you to all our to James and Sue for delivering and talking about their LMI journey using our data with that. And then if any of you do want to reach out to Leicester or I, then please do. We've got our emails on the screen there, so please do reach out to us if you do have any further questions or you want to explore any more detail around LMI data. So again, thank you all from Lightcast, and we hope to see you all soon. Thank you.